Our Californian city is exploding in size as we've already covered 10 in-game tiles and we're just getting started. So today we're building heavy train infrastructure, complex new highways and pushing eastwards with a massive new expansion. I also share a couple of tips on how you can increase traffic in your cities. Oh, and we finally have a name, as Santa Isabel came out on top in the most recent vote, and I'm pretty confident I can pronounce this one. Let's go. Now, before we get to the cool eastbound expansion though, there's a couple of things I need to fix. The first one being the train yard mess I made in the previous episode. This one is important because it's kind of immersion breaking and the train gang is gonna make sure I disappear somewhere in the dark underworld of Santa Isabel if I don't. So we're just gonna pause the game here and probably start by just moving the freight yard and the depot. And I didn't even plan to pause at this exact moment, but I did, so you can kind of see what the issue here is. This is like a death trap. So yeah, let's just start by grabbing this one and relocating it. And I was thinking that if we move it close to the existing rail yard we've got down here, the fake roleplay rail yard, I guess, not too close though, because I want road connection on either side. Something like this, and then we'll grab the depot as well. Grab it, not recolor it. This button here, and we'll just try and align this out front as well, because hopefully I can kind of cover the whole thing with a single road then. Now let's see, I have a version of the alley created with Road Builder that is very wide. This one, it accommodates truck traffic a little better than the vanilla alley, I think. And we're just gonna do a segment real close to the yard actually, and then we can just move the depot a little closer. Actually, that kind of works. And then back here, we don't strictly need to connect to these pieces here, but traffic is actually going to use them, and it's going to look a little better integrated if we do. So I prefer to make a connection here as well. So let's just bring an alley through, and I'll just do a quick connection. I haven't even connected it, and it's already an improvement. I'm joking. We're gonna connect it, don't worry. Let's get rid of some of the craziness here. I guess we could kind of keep this craziness in check maybe, and get some new connections going. So we're just gonna grab the same stretch here and start mapping this out. I mean, it's better. I mean, it's still a bit of a mess, but it's a good mess, like an abstract painting. Two things I want to fix before we move on. I think Amity Street here needs to move underneath this segment and connect to the highway, and then I think we need to kind of smoothen out this bend here as it leads into the station. So let's just get rid of this little stop road here and see if we can do this without it being too wonky. Oh man, it's gonna be wonk. I mean, we can get rid of some of this stuff here though, because we technically don't need it. The reason I'm letting this stay is that it just looks kind of interesting. Maybe there used to be something here. I mean, technically there did, but you know, in the law, there used to be something here as well that was connected up quite extensively to the city's train network. Let's see if this will... It's not gonna work. Actually, I think I need to think a little bigger here and do something like this instead. And then we'll get rid of this office building as well. That is better. All right, Amity Street needs to be dug on the ground. So we're not gonna do an in-game tunnel because that's such a messy thing to work with. We're just gonna make our own here. Rather, we're gonna turn this into an overpass, is what I'm trying to convey. So let's see, I think we'll grab the 2-lane two-way highway. And then we're gonna make sure we have ground and constant slope selected. And then we'll go down by, let's see, 875 is usually a good thing. And then I just need to move underneath. Actually, we can just, yeah, we'll move underneath here. I'll enable a bit of snapping and see if I can just connect directly to the highway. 4.4%, that's not bad at all. And then, of course, I just need this connection. That seems to work pretty well. And let's just get, that is a way too much to actually upgrade. So we're just gonna add a new node. Then we'll upgrade the smaller segment, remove the new piece. That looks good. And then let's get this connected right back up to the new road. We'll grab the complex curve and kind of move alongside the train tracks here. Going to add in an alley to bring the zoning right up next to the train depot. Just like this, and then we're going to zone the whole thing out with my custom zone. Maybe add in a parking lot or two. Not too detailed here, I just want a few additional workplaces because the city is really craving for it. Oh, and then we're ready to hit play and see see whether the trains are actually gonna function. Well, I mean, I guess utilities need to be brought in. Good opportunity to get some more cables in place. Let's raise that by 10 to get the large version of these. And we'll just move this across the tracks and connect up here. And actually kind of follow that all the way into town, at least until this place. I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of detailing in the form of bushes and trees while we let this settle. Oh, what's even going on here? It's better, and we're providing quite a few new jobs. Safe to say I'm still no train infrastructure expert, but it's so much fun to work with in this game. And what a mess this is, a lovable mess. The next thing I want to do is to provide a bit better service coverage here in Santa Isabel, because we still don't have a high school, and we're approaching 20,000 people with plans of, increasing that quite a bit in this episode. And we also have an elementary school system that is kind of on the brink of collapse. So I think we'll start with the high school, and what better choice than the Southwest themed high school. Now the thing here is that, as you guys can see, it has a pretty sizable footprint, so we might as well just time the placement of this with our eastwards expansion. Because I think I need to buy these 2 tiles, no matter what, and maybe even this one. So let's actually just buy all 3 tiles, even though that's going to be fairly expensive. Let's see. I think I want to place the high school parallel to Pacific Boulevard, so on this angle here. And we might as well just construct some kind of interesting road layout, because there's going to be so many straight grids out here that anytime we can just break it up a bit, it's going to be a nice time, I think. So let's actually I think I'm just going to place it as a start right here. And this is not gonna be the final placement. I'm gonna showcase you guys in just a second what my general idea is. So I'm gonna place it right here, and then we're gonna grab, let's see, I was thinking of actually grabbing the one-way roads for this one. And then if we branch out on just with some straight roads on either side of the school. Is this gonna work without Anarchy? It is. Good. I kind of want to make sure that's the case. Then the school is aligned fairly well. I don't want to change anything. Except for the fact that, of course, I need to move it. I'm going to move it down here, I think, because I need a bit of space to create something interesting with the roads. So let's see, how much space do we need? I think, well, yeah, it's not gonna make sense before it actually makes sense to you guys, but that's the case with so much of the stuff I'm building. So, you know, I think by now you're probably used to it, and now I'm getting doubts about what I'm doing here. So complex curve, and we'll move to this part and in, and we'll do the same thing over here and in. You know what, I probably needed a bit more space to actually pull this one off. So let's move 12 and up till about here, and move in, and we'll do the same thing over here. 12 down and in. Yeah, the point I was trying to make is we're not going to be careful with how we, you know, utilize the space here on our shorelines of California, because that's the whole point. We're not utilizing it all that great. It's going to be a sprawling mess. Okay, so I'm just going to make the connection move around here so that we can upgrade to our regular suburban road and branch out a super simple grid. Here's a reminder that I renamed the high school as soon as we have a name for the neighborhood it's placed in. As for the elementary school capacity, we could expand on South Isabel Elementary. That would add 750 extra capacity for a very reasonable increase in upkeep. But that's also just kind of boring, right? I mean, we should get a new elementary school altogether. So let's just see what we can find that is... Oh, right. I'm broke. Yeah, it's oh, actually I can afford some of these. This one has a capacity of 600, and I think it's upgradable, so we might go with this community high school. And let's just see, where should we place this? I think we're gonna place it on the corner of Madison and Ivy Street. And I just gotta check for any potential upgrades that adds more student capacity. Let's just grab the community playground. I have Anarchy on so that I can effectively place it on this corner here, which I think is gonna look fairly interesting. I'm just gonna get rid of this hedge. And then we are in California, so a bit of surface parking will probably be in order. So I think I'll do this and then move down, and then I'll upgrade with a key side here, because that removes parking from one of these, and that looks pretty nice. Actually, wait a minute, can I add a key here as well and fit in a road more? Ooh. Maybe that would be kind of pushing things. Yeah. My game is gonna crash if I don't stop, so let's just call that a day. We're gonna add a few simple paths for good measure. The lazy man's way of detailing. Maybe even here, interesting paths near the parking lot. Oh yes. And then let's get some California live oaks and laurel fig trees placed. Okay, so we've technically blown our budget. And this kind of conflicts with the next plan because we're Californians, so we want to expand the highway system. I know some of you already think it's quite crazy, but it's you haven't seen nothing yet. We're gonna go ham. Because I'm gonna bring in an additional highway, a lower capacity one, that is gonna run alongside this stretch as a sunken segment and potentially connect to this highway, but otherwise move to the southeast into the hills right here. Now this is gonna cost some cash, so I'm gonna take out a loan to build highway infrastructure, and this feels like the most American thing ever. So we're gonna grab $1 million, and we're still in the green, so we can keep this loan for a long time. And then we're gonna do a tiny bit of preparation, because this is going to look so cool. Man, we're gonna go ham with the infrastructure in this series. I can already feel it. So what I want to do is I just want to align the grid here. So we're going to branch off this avenue here, like this. Yes, and then we're just gonna make sure that these two are connected. Okay, let's see. We're gonna start with the main segment. Parallel mode as close as possible, brought together. Then let's lower that by 875. We're gonna ensure we have ground mode selected and constant slopes. And we're gonna disable any snapping and use the continuous tool. And then it's just about finding the right location, which I think is here. And then we're just gonna move through, and we're gonna cut up these existing neighborhoods like a Swiss knife, causing all kinds of good havoc. And then let's move down to at least right here, because then we might need to branch out to get a connection going over here. Or as I mentioned, we'll move into the southeast so that we can prepare for future sprawl. I imagine the connections here are gonna get pretty messy, which is the best part of highway development. So I hope you're as much in it as I am. Let's see how this will work. We need a bit of space, of course, because otherwise this lane here is going to be incredibly dangerous, as there's an on-ramp and now there's going to be an off-ramp. Not unrealistic, just dangerous. Those two are not mutually exclusive in real-life cities. We need to make sure that we're still at 875. And let's just do this, and we'll try and get a good connection going to... wait, I gotta think. Not my strong suit. Something like this, and then just a direct connection. Yes. And then we are going to need to just expand this avenue a little further. I'm completely winging this. I'm sorry. But it's the most fun way to build highways. It's just to... yeah, just do it. And, oh, let's see. I don't know how this is gonna look. 12.5%. I don't think that's too bad. And it doesn't look too bad either. So I'm just gonna add a retaining wall to either side. Yes, 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 that looks pretty good. And now for this connection. Okay, so this is where things are gonna get crazy, because I guess technically we could have an on-ramp to the highway attaching right here. There should be enough space then for the on-ramp, this stretch, and then there's the off-ramp. Or I guess technically this is an on-ramp to this highway. Oh man, we've got so many highways now, who knows? Let's see. So I think I'm gonna create 3 ramps from this segment. So it's gonna get very, very, very messy. How do I actually... Okay, I've got an idea. Okay, so first we're going to have a segment just cut through right here, still at a still lowered by 875. Then I'll need to branch off like this, but we will actually... I need to make sure I've connected, of course. Yes. We'll branch off. Actually, it's a complex curve situation, I think. So let's see, clicking once, clicking twice, and connecting up right here, upgrading this and turning it into an elevated segment. And this part as well. How does this look? It's manageable. We can work with this. The heights and stuff can be tweaked with Move It. Stay with me, guys. Now the question is, can we get... we can't branch underneath this overpass without actually lowering this segment. Which is maybe what we should just do then. Because we've got plenty of space here just to lower a few of these nodes here. Just a bit. Something like this. Just so we have enough space to actually move through this area. And it's probably better to actually start over here and then just reverse the segment. That's usually a little easier. And we really need to probably freeform this completely. Okay, so as we move up the hillside here, we do get a bit of elevation just by default, which is great. And then I need to move across. And this is where things are gonna get real messy. Let's see, we're gonna reverse the segment, of course, so we don't get any complaints and so that it's actually gonna work. These guys, yeah, I mean, they probably wouldn't want to live here anyways, so I'm gonna imminent domain those fools, and we'll upgrade this to an elevated segment. There's gonna be some move it tweaking over here, that's for sure. So fortunately there's a node right here, so if I just lower that so that we don't have any awkwardness in that transition, then the question is if I can grab this segment and that's just about good enough. Maybe the solution is going to be elevating this a bit. Oh man, that is disgusting. Okay, let's see if I reverse that selection and we just move this to the center and just elevate that. Maybe that is gonna look all right. This is so much fun. I don't have enough space here for this off ramp or on ramp, whatever we're gonna call it. So we'll have to branch in somewhere down here and then move underneath these ramps. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Let's see if we can... Yeah, we'll upgrade this to a 4-lane segment. And then we're gonna try and connect from this to that point. Oh man. We're gonna disable snapping and probably lower this segment as well. It doesn't really make sense for it to kind of move up and then move down. Unless... no more crazy shenanigans here. We're gonna try and make this look somewhat normal. There's nothing normal about this, but yeah. Maybe we just need a super long complex curve now. So if I find 180 and click once, and we'll lower that. Oh, sorry, we go to ground level and we click once more and we connect. That is beautiful. Wow. We'll need a few more bridge segments and potentially to manually removing some pillars as well. Actually, I guess that almost works. Let's get rid of a few of these bushes. That is so beautiful. And I actually think that clearing wise, we're in the okay. I mean, that's what, 6 meters to the first ramp and then another 6 meters to this bridge. So I don't see any problems. The only real problem I see is that we've got a very long segment here with just too little support. I mean, this is some space age engineering to get this to work. So we are going to try a slightly different approach. Because I think I can have this segment here follow the hill for just a little longer. So if I can connect and let's see, no snapping. And we just move up the hill here underneath the overpass. Then we've got that as a support. And then of course we are going to need to do quite a bit sharper a turn to connect to this segment here, but I don't mind. I mean, we can have signs to slow. Yeah, a turn. I swear there's a bug where you place one road with one of the other tools, then you switch to symbol curve, and your first click doesn't actually register the point of your curve. It actually just places the road. Or maybe it's just me. Let's move across, and just gonna disable snapping so that I can just make sure we've got the crossing in place. Yank. And then we'll just delete this. And hopefully we can get a decent connection between the two. Cool. Let's flip these around. Now that is much more manageable. Yes. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm gonna have to check the heights, obviously, in just a second, but for now it looks really good. And we can elevate this node quite a bit to prepare for this approach. Now, was there ever anything better in City Skylines to take out a $1 million loan for? No. This is so much fun to create. But all this talk of highway this and highway that has reminded me we desperately need to name some of these highways. And just like with the train crew, I don't want to mess with the highway, the traffic gang either. So if you're an expert in naming US highways, then I need a couple of suggestions. So I need a suggestion for this small expressway / highway that moves from the main highway to Pacific View, which I've just renamed based on a cool comment from one of you guys. Obviously, I need a name for the main highway moving north to south here alongside the Pacific coast, connecting down there to, I guess, San Francisco. Then I need a name for this main highway that's gonna move eastwards and maybe turn south and connect to Sacramento through the mountains. And I also need a name for this new highway we've just created, slightly smaller capacity, and I don't know if that's gonna terminate here or move to the southeast. But I hope you kind of got that, so if you've got suggestions for all of these, then please add some bullet points or something so I know exactly what you're thinking. Alright, so all we need is some on and off ramps for this segment, and then we're ready to really develop this neighborhood. And I have some pretty cool ideas for the density transition this neighborhood will have. I think that's gonna be really fun and add a sizable amount of new jobs and population to Santa Isabel. But before we get that far, I've taken 3 approaches, or 3 steps rather, to increase the amount of traffic we have on our highways as much as possible. As it looks cool, it's fun to manage, and this is a California-inspired build. Now, the first step is a design choice, the second one involves a mod, and the third one involves a tool that the developers actually use, I imagine, to develop the game. The first design choice is that I have made sure that the 6-lane highway I added to the map is routed directly through the city, and it's actually the only connection to the outside cities in the north and the south. What this effectively means is we're going to have some of the traffic here, which is quote-unquote dummy traffic, like this guy. I think this car is going to the city in the south, and it might have spawned from the northern city outside the map. So we're gonna have traffic that doesn't have any, business to actually do in Santa Isabel, and that's obviously going to make this highway more busy. Now the next step is to utilize the traffic simulation adjuster mod. So basically, the developers baked in some kind of performance enhancing step, which effectively means, and I don't know the calculations, but at some point in time as your city grows, the amount of traffic is actually going to decrease. So there's not going to be a linear relationship between the amount of traffic and the size of your city. But I want that. So I use this mod and I set this setting to 0, which is going to increase traffic in larger cities. Now the third thing is going to look really weird if you haven't seen it before, and this is very much a use at your own risk approach. But I have these up here in the north, and I have a couple of boxes in the south as well. And as you can probably already tell, they spawn traffic, and they effectively just spawn dummy traffic. So this traffic is moving to the outside connection in the very south of the map. This one is actually going to turn at some place and move north, I can see, because Sudbury is the city you can enter here, I think. Yeah. But basically these are traffic spawners. So to actually use these, you need to have the developer mode enabled in your Steam properties settings, and then as you move in here, you can search for traffic spawner, and you get this guy. And if you click, you can place that along a road. I don't recommend placing two along the same road, because the traffic that is then spawned by this box can actually just leave through this box here. And that, I think that might cause a bit of a performance issue, and I think these might actually tank performance as well, but my computer is just chugging along just fine. So it's a use at your own risk thing, but it's a pretty cool thing to use, because it does really help increase the traffic. At least all the stuff we're seeing spawn here wouldn't otherwise spawn. So with that little weird intermission in place, for those traffic freaks amongst you, let's get to developing the on and off ramps for the new highway segment. But I think we're gonna start that time lapse by taking a tour with this SUV, as it's going to move through the inner city area. I don't think I'm ever gonna grow bored of working with the network tools in this game. It is just so much fun. Now, something that's always a little tricky with an area like this is that we have to imagine the road network was here before the highway. And I don't always achieve this look, but you know, I try to make some decisions so we can imagine that Green Street used to actually just continue in a straight line here. But obviously now that there's a highway, parts of it was removed, houses and businesses were demolished. And now the city has just, as the highway was built, a small lane was just connected up to Cedar Street to create a bit of connectivity. You could also just remove this and turn this into a cul-de-sac, but it's just some of the small things I do to try and showcase this development. Same can be said about Maple Street. This probably just went straight out here and maybe, you know, had a cul-de-sac or something. But, you know, they had to demolish parts of it to make room for the highway. And now it's just got this small, you know, narrow segment connecting up to the new overpass. So some of those small tweaks work. Sometimes I don't feel it quite works, but in general, though, I'm pretty happy with this. This area is super complex, and I just love winging some of these on and off ramps and just making things look a little more interesting. I also felt that it was about time we reached an avenue, because we need major avenues and materials to like crisscross through the area, even as we start expanding. And with that said, I think we're actually ready to start developing this area. But the first thing we're gonna do is actually a little more road tweaking. So I hope you guys don't mind. But we're going to make Pacific Boulevard even wider as we move across the highway here. You know, I imagine that this is kind of this was the boundary of the inner city areas even before the highway, which is also one of the reasons the highway was placed here in the first place, along with other political reasons that can get kind of messy. But I do want Pacific Boulevard to just be more wide as we move further away from the city. So we're gonna grab, I think we're gonna grab the 6-lane divided road. That is kind of like the next step, basically. And let's see, how are we going to do this? We may just do it from around this point here, actually. Or should we move all the way up here? This is tricky. I think we're gonna try and start from this point and then just upgrade our way through. And then I kind of want like an async setup as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a grassy median here with no parking, obviously, and then we're gonna add some planted palm trees in there as well. And we're gonna remove any sort of parking here as well by adding the grassy median. And then I'm gonna add some additional nodes because I have a few ideas for getting some turning lanes. So we're gonna go 4 zoning tiles out, and we're gonna add in our nodes. Then let's see, large roads. We've got the 7-lane asymmetric road. That is what we need. Let's just make sure we've got this all set up just like that, and then there's gonna be a pretty seamless transition as we start removing these stop roads here. Pretty nice, although this does look a little weird, so I would probably want to branch out a road here, just get this connection in place. Potentially disallow some left turns here though from both of these, so that this isn't really a crossing at all. Traffic is just gonna flow seamless through here. Alright, so I did mention wanting this general area to be a transitionary zone, density-wise. And what I mean by that is that as we start moving out here, we're going to see a predominance of low-density development, not just in terms of residential units, single-family homes, but also in terms of like the commercial and office space. But when we're in this transitionary zone, we're going to have some medium density developments alongside some of the major avenues. And in this cluster in particular, that is relatively close or practically within the Santa Rosa neighborhood. So the look I'm going for, it kind of mimics Pacific Boulevard in the most western end. We're out here in Pacific View, where you can see that Jackshill Avenue has some pretty hefty development alongside it, and then there's a pretty quick transition to lower densities. Now, I don't imagine Pacific Boulevard, as we move inlands, as we move eastbound, is going to be quite as dense, but we are still going to have some mid-rises to kind of poke through and give us that Wilshire Boulevard look we're trying to kind of mimic from Los Angeles. So for the purpose of this, I am going to be plopping some of these buildings just so that I can kind of fine-tune the look I want. If you're building along, maybe you've grabbed the same save game from my Patreon, you can zone this just fine. I'm not going to like plop them without snapping so that it's going to look super custom or anything like that. That's not my intention, at least. So you should be able to zone just fine, but I just want the full control. I'm going to move into commercial, and I'm going to filter for some high density stuff. And then I think the lot depth is going to be what we're going for. And we've got lots of just boring looking stuff, like this boy here, which is pretty much exactly what I want. Maybe it's a little big, so I think I'm going to go for, actually that's a little too fancy looking. Let's go for this one. And they are sort of big, you know, when they're level 5. So that's definitely something, or when they're 5 tiles deep, that is something to keep in mind. Gonna move for 6 tiles. And I'm probably gonna stitch some of these together, because that is one way of just creating more interesting buildings and not feel the restriction to the zoning sizes. So I think, you know, this is a pretty good example. Then I'm going to use recolor to make sure we have the same color palette throughout the structure. And you just kind of know we'd have a massive parking lot here. We're going to wait a second with placing that and get a few more of these high density commercial buildings in place first. Now, zoning wise, or rather demand wise, I actually just need offices. I'm going to grab some medium density offices. This is a custom zone I grabbed from PDX Mods. It basically just repurposes all of these high density commercial assets to be a medium density office zone, which it's just a very, very clever idea. We'd probably also see quite a bit of mixed use here. And some more, you know, some new developments as well, some redevelopments alongside these busy corridors where zoning laws are maybe also a little more loose. So it's a good chance to add some urban promenades stuff into the mix. We're gonna add a parking garage, and then I think we're just about ready to maybe just zone the rest, actually. Just some low density commercial. It's probably gonna be the best fit. I'm gonna use the just a kind of a mix of all the new zoning types we now have available, even bringing some Japanese stuff in here, because I find most of them actually work fairly well for this type of development. And then the vanilla of low density commercial zones also function pretty well. Now let's get this parking lot set up. Oh, it's gonna be so ugly. We might as well just move from around this place and then perhaps just all the way down here. We're just gonna use a small alley for this at first, and I'll just do something like this. So let's grab the parking alley and probably start by upgrading this one here without any snapping, so we can get pretty close to the boulevard. And then we're going to be placing a few of these without any snapping so that we can control how close they are. And then maybe just upgrading this segment here as well as this segment, and then adding a key. Beautiful, isn't it? And of course we need a bit of surface parking right here alongside the other side of Pacific Boulevard. I'm not sure why I forgot this, but of course we do. We've got a pretty weird mix now of some medium density stuff or buildings that almost look like high rises, and then surface parking. Very Californian, I think. And then there's the medium density residential, and we are just, with all the region packs, we are spoiled for choice here, and there are so many things and styles that I think can work if you put your mind to it, or just work right out the gate. So I'm gonna try and let's see if we grab this Japanese low density residential unit, for instance, and create a bit of a housing project with it. Oh, look, perfect fit. Didn't plan for this. Something like that. And then if we find that, I mean, the building is definitely generic enough to fit into the vibe we're going for. Don't know if we can recolor the roofing. If we could, that would be great, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think... Oh, we can. Ah, that's perfect. So we can make it a little more California appropriate. Just recolor all of these, and then we can grab some kind of surface we like a little more. Let's say we just want a dark pavement instead of this bright one. We'll just replace all these. Beautiful. And then if we deselect this and maybe just you know, connect some of the paths in between these, just for like 2 of the buildings maybe. And then we could add a few trees, and we've got ourselves a nice little thing going on. There's a 4x6 unit here, which I also think we can use. And we might do, let's see, something like this. Yunk, very simple to place once more. And we might want to do a different pavement surface that is still a little darker, but not quite as dark as this setup over here. I don't know if these are recolorable. Oh, they are, but in... Oh, okay, that's interesting. Can I recolor the roofing? No, I can't. Okay, so I'm just gonna move forward with the default colors and just make sure they're all colorized the same way. And of course, as the actual Southwest pack also comes with medium density, it'd probably be a little foolish not to use it. So let's just get a small development built with that in mind as well. And maybe turn this into a parking lot. A medium solar panel covered parking lot. I don't get to use this very often, so there you have it. And let's just create a few paths. Recreational space. Well, not really, we're just framing a parking lot, but I mean, parking lots are almost recreational space in California, right? They have to be. I think we're about ready to spam some low-density suburbia in here, but I'm just going to reserve much of the space alongside Broad Street before we do so, because I think this would be a place where we'd see you know, some low-density commercial development, and not you know, low-density suburbia. But for something like this, that'd be fine. Then I'm gonna zone out the entire thing, and we're gonna start moving a bit further eastwards. I want to get a bit more done than just this area. But it's gonna look really interesting now that we start mixing in some of the low-density stuff here on either side of the road over here and in between all these areas. And generally the Southwest low-density housing theme is just beautiful and awesome to work with. So I can zone pretty loosely, pretty liberally, without having much that I actually need to fix. Of course, if you're a super hardcore detailer, then you probably wouldn't zone anything, so your mileage may vary. But personally, I think I can get away with zoning this. Although, as you can see, I usually manually zone alongside the sunken highway stretches, because otherwise I'm going to get some pretty sharp elevation changes here. And something I've noticed with many sunken highways in the US is that they really did not care about the land usage. So it's not like they have strict keys on either side to use as little space as possible for these highways. It's almost as if they were meant to destroy something. Either way, they take up a ton of space. and that is visible from just about anywhere. Alright, I think we've got all this zoned up. Let's make sure we designate a district, and I don't mind it being a fairly large district, and then it can split at around Broad Street down here. And I don't know if you've kind of guessed it by now, but I'm gonna need a naming suggestion. We can go with Primrose for now, but that is very much subject to change. So let's hit play and see how this unfolds. Well, okay, let's just say that I guess I'd overestimated the amount of low density demand I actually had, because I mean the bar was full, so I just kind of assumed we could really sprawl out. But yeah, I mean, we have added like 900 households based on like mixed use and medium density residential, so that really took quite a hit demand-wise. So we're just gonna let the simulation run for a little bit, because it's definitely gonna take some time to fill in this area. But we are seeing plenty of use from our new highway extension. That is so nice to see in action, seeing people move into Primrose and using the new infrastructure that we carved through this hill just for them to use. Well, I guess since we have good money, I'm gonna be cheeky and see if I can subsidize residential development by dropping the tax to 0 and then just speeding things up, hopefully. It seems like that actually, yeah, it does add a bit of demand that is then immediately satisfied, as we have so many building lots for sale, but this is definitely speeding things up. I don't know if that's a Californian thing, subsidizing low-density housing. I could imagine it be, oh, look at the speed of this. Yes, we just need to cut taxes. And we've got a ton of traffic from the northbound direction as well. I love seeing these highways at work. And Primrose almost looks like a city on its own, actually. As Primrose is continuing to develop, it's becoming much more obvious and easy to see where we need some traffic fixes. I don't think this queue is gonna last forever, but I think given that we have an off-ramp here, it probably makes sense to upgrade at least this segment of Amity Street to an async configuration. So let's just grab this road right here and give them 2 lanes moving into Primrose. Yeah. And we're gonna flip this so we have 2 lanes moving in the other direction as well onto Pacific Boulevard. Now, we obviously need to add trees, but before we're gonna use Anarchy to spam place a bunch of trees, which takes a ton of time. There are 2 things we can pretty easily do. So one thing that's pretty cool is that if we grab the, let's see, this tool here to change the tree age tool, and we get this circle, and we set it to elderly, so the biggest trees basically, then the way trees are used in the southwest low-density housing means that they will actually grow into significant trees with time or with this tool set. So this is great, because without having to manually place any trees, we can just kind of move through and make sure that all the trees that are part of these assets are at the older stage, basically. And this already made quite the difference. Then, of course, the next thing we could do would be to actually just add some trees alongside some of the roads here. So I think we're gonna move ahead and do that as well. And I don't want to use palms or oaks everywhere. I'm going to mix it up. We're not in Southern California, so I don't really mind using other stuff than palms. We are gonna have palms line most of our like main boulevards, because that's just the thing here in the city. And I especially like the Florida palm tree. So we're just gonna make sure that Pacific Boulevard has that real Cali palm vibe. Yes, we're gonna add it to the center of Pacific Boulevard as it cuts through downtown Santa Isabel as well. All the way down as it crosses with Ocean Pass. And we're gonna make sure we have a grassy median here as well. Let's see, to connect up Santa Rosa a little better to Primrose, we should probably just keep in mind that Santa Rosa today is a historic row house district with these beautiful, colorful old row houses. Not historic enough so that we couldn't carve a highway through during the 60s, mind you, but I imagine that, you know, the entire area used to be row house dominated, so we would see some row houses on this side of the highway as well, and then maybe mixed in with some low density businesses and industrial warehouses, just like we see here. Because, I mean, this used to be row houses as well, but when you run a 6-lane highway through an area, the property value here is just gone. And the city rezoned it so that businesses could set up shop because it's right next to a polluting, noisy highway. So there's going to be some sort of theme like that over here as well, but we are going to have some row houses. Now let's see, Kent Lane would probably be crossing here in the past. So let's see, that is around here. Then we would just bring out a lane and we'll make sure it's at the same height as Kent Lane, and then we're gonna add in some of these historic row houses. Let's see, these guys, and let's just get a medium density development right here on the corner, because the row housing units, they don't look that great on corners, as you guys may know. And we're gonna get in just a bit of mixed housing as well. And okay, that's actually quite a few row houses that survived on this side of the highway. Let's make sure that the terrain isn't quite as dramatic here. So we're just gonna level to where all the houses kind of poke through, and then grab a very, very small softened terrain brush with a low strength. Just even this out a little bit. And then obviously we're going to add some of our trees to cover up all of these imperfections. That actually turned out pretty great, and it's almost like there isn't any highway carving stuff up as we approach this angle and move into Santa Rosa, and then you zoom out and see it. But yeah, one of my more interesting districts for sure. So I think some of the sprawl can probably best be described as sort of a placeholder, just like a backdrop to move more people into the city, and it's obviously not very high detail or with too much care put into it, and we're gonna have to carve up some of this as we continue some of the highways. But generally, population has risen with about 5,000 now, and that's actually put an extra strain on the education system. I thought we were covered here, but Apparently not. So the high school is gonna need some upgrades, that's for sure. Let's start with the gymnasium, which increases capacity by 240. Pedestrian access issue of some sort, but okay. We've got a library we could add, adding 230 additional. And then we have a small classroom building. Now this one will have to go outside. So yeah, we could use a bit of space within one of these blocks, I guess. Let's see, maybe we could just we could build two on this side of the road, so that we've basically just we just snatched that from the residential development that was in place here. So let's just get rid of the buildings, and then I think we can dezone this area. We'll make sure to dezone it, and then for good measure, I'm just going to grab maybe just the surface of this building here and cover up the entire lot. Very cool. Now there is a large classroom building upgrade that adds 500 capacity as well. And let's see, I wonder, ooh, hello, can I squeeze that in right here? I mean, with Anarchy on, I can. Oh, that is so nice. I wouldn't say that's the perfect fit, and I certainly didn't plan for it, but that looks pretty cool. So maybe we could do a little something with the surfacing here, just to make it look even cooler. Very, very nice. How much did that actually? 2,570, which is a lot closer to... Actually, it seems like we're covered now. We need an additional elementary school though. And we're gonna need some more parking as well. For the high school, this is not sufficient. Not in California, it ain't. So, yeah. A bit of extra eminent domain, I guess. Just to get a parking lot placed. And yeah, but I mean, I guess we could have houses on at least one side of the parking lots, and then over here we're just gonna have a bunch of nothing. Anyways, let's look into our elementary school options. Now I need quite a bit of capacity here, so maybe something like the urban elementary school, which has a pretty amazing capacity, could be placed alongside Strawberry Street. What? This is Pacific Boulevard, but you know the road tooling. If you, yeah, Strawberry Street, I guess. We're gonna get that changed. Actually, maybe, oh, the other school is right there. So I want to move just slightly away from that at the very least. So I'm going to, I think I'm just gonna place the school right here. Doesn't break or destroy anything. And let's see how the capacity is looking. We're gonna need an upgrade, aren't we? Oh, we're just on the edge. So I think we're gonna need this cool upgrade back here, which increases capacity by 500. And now we're pretty good to go. And we need to rename this. But I think that's going to be a wrap for this one, guys. I'm obviously desperate for some district name suggestions, as we've now got quite a few. And if you've got suggestions for how to shape Barlow or Willow Terrace as well, then feel free to comment, because these are pretty much just placeholder areas now with no specific point of interest to them. And speaking of that, I think it was clear that in this episode we were focused on the big picture things, infrastructure, expansions, as well as just bringing in more people and expanding the footprint of the city with little to no detailing and a bit of service coverage. And speaking of services, I think we're about ready to get a bus network in pretty soon. The population is 25k and the actual footprint of the city is pretty massive, but I'm thinking it's gonna be underfunded and overpriced. We don't want to bring too many Californians out of their personal vehicles. And with all that said, I just want to thank you guys so much for the awesome reception to this new series. I'm pretty hyped, I'm having a pretty good time, and I think that despite it also being a North American city, just like in East Haven County, the actual shape of it is starting to turn out quite a bit different. We're obviously thinking about land use in quite a different way here than we are over in East Haven County, which I think is the whole point of it, having some diverse, different cities. The save game should be ready over on Patreon when this video launches, so if you're interested, you can head over there and check that out. I'm gonna wrap up with some final cinematics now. Goodbye.